From energy vampires to late payers, nitpickers, lowballers, passive-aggressive commenters, and impossible expectationers? When it comes to dealing with those difficult clients, how do you set and keep boundaries? Hey Posse, what's up? It's Alex. If you're new to the crew, welcome. This channel is here to bring you the latest in marketing, copywriting, and freelancing. So for more videos like this one, go ahead and hit subscribe below and don't forget to ring that bell to be notified when my next video goes live. Now, I am very excited about today's video because I feel like this is a topic that all of my fellow freelancers and creative entrepreneurs can relate to. No matter your niche or industry, when you work in a client-based business, you're bound to stumble across one or two or 3 or 4 clients that push your boundaries and your buttons. And trust me, I have been there. After a decade of running my own freelance copywriting business, I have dealt with my fair share of difficult clients and boundary pushers. And in the beginning of my career, I did what most new freelancers do. I let my clients call the shots and completely lost sight of my so-called boundaries. I lowered my prices to unreasonable rates. I let clients call me on the weekends. I'd work all hours of the day, and I would agree to the most ridiculous turnaround times without a second thought. But over the years, I did a lot of mindset work to shift that dynamic. But there was one big mindset change in particular that really shifted everything for me, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of this video. But first, what I really want to talk about is how you can actually stand your ground as a freelancer and hold your boundaries with difficult clients. What to do when that doesn't work, and most importantly, I'm going to give you 5 super tactful ways for you to fire a client on good terms without burning professional bridges or risking your reputation. So let's get right to it. The most important skill you will ever learn. As a freelancer, you're constantly learning and reviving your skills, right? I mean, you kind of need to if you want to stay in demand and on top of the industry trends. But there is one skill in particular that most freelancers or entrepreneurs in general just never learn. And that is why they struggle to hold boundaries and find it impossible to say goodbye to those bad apple clients. And that skill is this: learning how to have difficult conversations. Here's the thing, when you're a freelancer or a business owner, you have to learn this skill. Whether it's talking about money, setting proper expectations, or communicating a boundary that's been crossed, people hardly ever see eye to eye on everything, and people definitely aren't mind readers, which means that having difficult conversations is often the only way to truly grow and thrive in your business. So one of my favorite quotes of all time by Tim Ferriss is this: "A person's success in life can be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations he or she is willing to have." After a decade in the business, I can tell you that no truer words have ever been spoken, and I promise that 9 times out of 10, what starts as an uncomfy conversation ends as a giant relief and a new perspective. So buckle up, because it's time to get comfy with being uncomfy. All right, next up, let's talk about when to stay and when to go. All right, so now that you're getting comfortable with getting uncomfortable, let's talk about how to actually approach and handle those difficult clients. Because just because you're willing to have those difficult conversations doesn't mean you need to go around and fire every single client that pushes your boundaries. Because remember, no clients are perfect. Nobody's perfect. And most clients simply don't realize they're being difficult unless you tell them. Trust me on this one, because I have been on both sides of the equation, as the fed up freelancer and yes, the imperfect client as well. Now, here's the thing you need to remember about those difficult clients. When you're an entrepreneur hiring a team or putting something out there into the world with your face and name on it, it can be really, really scary and difficult to let go of all those things that you used to do yourself. I have been there. I am going through it right now, which can sometimes and completely unknowingly to the client lead to unwanted micromanaging, nitpicking, or even asking for a million revisions. It's not that they don't appreciate your value and talent. Sometimes it's simply that they're having a really hard time letting go and trusting the process. So before you take the harsh approach and just throw in the towel on what could be a really great working relationship, instead try the empathetic approach and think maybe your client is just overwhelmed or scared, and that maybe, just maybe, all you need is one candid conversation to resolve the issues. So with that said, how do you really know when you should fire a client and when you should stick around to try to make things work? Well, here are a few things to consider before you say goodbye. Number one, reassess how important this client is to you. If you love working with a client and you see a good future working relationship with them, then the temporary uncomfortableness of a candid conversation will likely be well worth it. Really great clients are few and far between, so if you think you have a good one, then it's silly to just throw in the towel over a little misunderstanding or an unclear boundary. Number two, set clear expectations from the start with a contract. I cannot stress this one enough. Always enter into your client relationships with a contract or a statement of work that clearly maps out the expectations and boundaries. That way there's never any confusion and any misunderstandings can be quickly cleared up with that contract. And if you're kicking yourself because you have clients with no contracts, remember it's never too late to get one drafted up. Even if you've been working with a client for years, you could simply approach them and say, hey, as my business grows, I've realized that I need to start keeping better documentation of my clients' needs and expectations. So I've drafted up this contract to make sure that we're always on the same page. Could you look it over and come back to me with any questions or revisions you might have? Number three, stand your ground. Don't be afraid to push back politely and stand your ground. Be ready to clearly explain what the problem is, how it's impacting your work, their business, or others on the team, and what needs to change going forward. Try to keep it as factual and unemotional as possible. I know this one can be tricky. Stick to using facts and stats and specific examples if you have them. And remember, no matter what happens in the end, your client will respect you more for having the courage to stand up for yourself and hold your ground and stick to those boundaries. Number four, ask yourself, can this situation be turned around or is the relationship just flat out toxic? If it's toxic, get out fast. And that leads me to 5 tactful ways to fire a client. So sometimes, despite your best efforts and most candid conversations, the best solution will always be to say goodbye. Firing a client is probably the right thing to do if 1, they deplete your energy, your creativity, and worst of all, your self-worth. They keep you so busy that you can't work with any other potentially better or higher paying clients. They're toxic, impossible to manage, constantly demanding additional work, don't respect your boundaries or time, or are overcritical or negative. You've been through those 4 should I stay questions and still feel confident that it's best to move on. So once you've made the decision that it is in fact time to move on, here are 5 super tactful and professional ways that you can end the relationship without any guilt or shame or resentment from either party. All right, here's the first one. I'm taking my business in a different direction. This is a great way to redirect the blow and make it feel less personal to the client. Say you're firing a client that you write content for and you're no longer offering that service anymore, then it's not necessarily your client's fault, it's the business direction's fault. All right, next one. This is outside the scope of what I offer. Sometimes clients will give you work that's outside of what you specialize in or want to do. This is where a contract or a statement of work will really come in handy. But even if you don't have one, remember that it's your business and you get to decide what you say yes and what you say no to. I don't believe I'm the best person to help you with this. So giving a reason like this lessens the blow because it's your way of saying, it's not you, it's me. There's no point in wasting your or their time if you can't sufficiently meet their expectations. This will allow them to go find someone who is a better fit for their needs, and you can find someone that's a better fit for you too. This isn't something that I'm able to help you with, but I know someone who can. Suggesting a different copywriter or freelancer or agency is something they would likely greatly appreciate. This is one of my favorite ways to say no because it comes across as actually very helpful and genuine. Most business owners hate searching for a freelancer that meets their expectations because let's face it, they are hard to find. So by you helping them, you are really doing them a favor. And lastly, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I don't feel like we're a fit. So this is a good one for those clients that you just do not see eye to eye with. Remember, you don't owe them an explanation beyond this, but honesty is always the best policy. Tell them exactly what isn't vibing for you, and that'll really help them out when hiring their next freelancer. All right, now for the big mindset shift I promised you, the single biggest mindset shift that changed everything for me. So grab a pen and a piece of paper because this is a juicy one and you'll definitely want to write this mindset shift down. I am a business owner and I have full control over which clients I decide to work with. Now, this mindset shift is really hard to make, especially as a beginner, because as a fresh on the scene freelancer, you want to make a good impression, do a great job, get referrals, and maybe even get a client testimonial. So you tend to naturally fall into that employee-employer way of thinking. But allow me to remind you of something. You are your own boss. That is why you started your freelancing business. Your clients are not your boss, they are your clients. Every single client relationship you enter is done to be mutually beneficial to both parties, you and your client. And remember, at the end of the day, you are the expert and they need you and your skills. All right, guys, give me a thumbs up below if you found this video helpful. I will see you next week with a brand new video. Until then, I'm Alex. Ciao for now. All right, guys, if you enjoyed that video, make sure to check out the next one from me right here. And you can click right here to get a free gift. Yes, I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. If you're in the throes of starting or scaling your copywriting business, allow me to save you some time as I shed light on 5 of the most surprising lessons I've learned over the last 8 years.